So we're watching the Emini S&P in this first analysis, and we're using the FLUX Professional histogram tools. And I'm going to go ahead and just pull these down a little bit to make some room on our screen. Some common characteristics of the FLUX histograms and the software involve 3 panels. You have the histogram for trend on the bottom if you elect to use that. We call it a power zone. It's a trend histogram. Then you also have the momentum histogram. The MACD histogram I'm using in this case is based off of a 2-period fast, 10-period slow MACD. The power zone was based off of a 60-period SMA, if you follow this video in the future. And then I also have a 120-period exponential moving average on the chart here in the NinjaTrader indicator list. And I've set this NinjaTrader indicator to 120 for its period. I have the dots turning lime green when the slope is up. I have the dots, which I have set to a width of 1, to turn red when the slope is down. So now, in relation to the patterns that we've got, here's what's taken place on the ES. When we arrived at the selling pressure time at 4:30 2 days ago, the market fell. Then we got to the 1 a.m. Asian session signal. The market went up. We arrived at the 6 a.m. selling pressure time. The market went down. We arrived at the 9:30 buying pressure time yesterday, and the market actually put up an effort to go higher. It went a whole whopping $3 before it collapsed. We got to the 1:30 and 4 p.m. signal, and we had a lower low red dot at 4 p.m., which is a pattern 4. There was a signal at 1:30, and this is a Canaveral pattern. I'm going to teach everyone here what a Canaveral pattern is, and it's one of the harder patterns that I've had to learn. When there is a lower low candle, this one right here, think of it like a skyscraper. Think of it like a multi-floored skyscraper in a city. When I went to, last time I remember going to New York City, it was not a pleasurable experience for me. Other people love it. I brought my kids, and they were still little ones. And one of the things I remember is that even though the sun was shining, we were freezing because the building blocked the sunshine. All of that wonderful sunshine that was trying to get down to the sidewalks was covered, and so it was really cold. And we were down here below on the sidewalk with the kids. We had them in strollers. And I remember my wife went into a store and bought socks. And she used socks over my kids' hands because they were freezing. Well, when you have a lower low candle like this, and then you have a selling pressure signal that is in the shadow of the lower low candle. So the body of this candle, the wicks, everything in it is engulfed by that stop run candle here. When it's in the shadow, and Earl, I'll take a line and I'll actually draw it at the top of that candle. I call this a Canaveral pattern. Canaveral. And you will see me in the classes. I will take a triangle tool and I'll draw a green large triangle underneath it. Because when I see this pattern, historically, the market tends to drift upwards after that price time pattern. I liken it to the old satellite launches and Apollo launches at Cape Canaveral in Florida. You had a pad, you had a rocket, and it had a payload on top of it. And the rocket would go up, 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 and then it would start to fall. But the payload, the satellite, would continue up into space. And so we were seeing these patterns where there was a higher high candle, and then just to the right of it, there was a buying pressure signal. And so this is the same building concept, right? There's the top of the building. Here's our sunshine. It's a horrible looking sun, but there it is. This candle is blocking the sunshine. My kids freeze and we go home. Let's get a picture of a triangle pointing down. Is there such a thing? I don't have one. We'll just draw an arrow. When you see this pattern, the idea is the rocket took off. This is as high as the rocket could go. And it starts to drift and go the other way, i.e. a Canaveral. It's a dumb name. It meant something to me, and that's how I remember it. So you can see this pattern from above. It's a variation of a pattern 5. A pattern 5 would normally have a wick or a body derrick that took us past here and we had a higher high. But when we don't have that and the candle is engulfed, the presumption is exhaustion. Same thing here. When we have a lower low candle like this and the candle is engulfed, I draw the line, in this case down here, and the candle is engulfed, and we're looking for a reversal up. All of that to say, and if you learn this pattern, it'll be very useful for you. We'll call it out in our live session here in just a few minutes after the open. Can you see the Canaveral, Gary, over here? There's the building upside down. Imagine the sun shining over here. The sun can't get its energy to my kids' gloves, my kids' hands. And so the market tends to do what? Tends to go the other way. So this is where I would normally put one of these. And I type the word Canaveral. It's a very bullish pattern and will be very helpful to you in a Trump trend. Okay, here's where things get cool. We get over here to 8 p.m. 8 p.m. is a green dot in the direction of the trend. The market goes up. We get to 11 o'clock and we have that second style signal. We expect the market to consolidate at a pattern 2 like that. Masood, it does not matter. When we have a touch of the red dot in the direction of the trend, that is a breakout entry. It tells us that the consolidation period that we were watching is over. The next signal occurred last night, or this morning rather, at 6:30 a.m. That was also a signal with trend. So overall, here's what I want you to see. The timing patterns are giving us very valuable insight as to what the market is most likely going to do next. And so the next signal on our chart occurs at 11:30 Eastern this morning. Today is March 1st. Happy March 1st, by the way. Getting closer to spring. So my understanding using this chart is that we're in a window of time. And that window of time involves a reckless abandonment of risk between 6:30 Eastern and 11:30 Eastern. There's a 5-hour window of buying pressure available. Everybody see that window? Okay, so one of the techniques we can employ, because we're tracking the banks, because we're projecting these times forward into the future with a NinjaTrader indicator, we're able to see and interpret and anticipate proactively where to lay stake, where to lay our claims, right? What was the name of that movie with Tom Cruise where he's an Irish immigrant and he just wants his land? Tom Cruise, Nicole Kidman movie, Oklahoma, Far and Away. Do you remember that scene where he goes out and he holds that freaking flag? Here it is. He lays his claim, but he knew in advance where the claim was. He had gone out and he had researched which plot of land he wanted. And he rode out there and pretended to look like he was seeing it for the first time, but he had snuck ahead and seen where the good stuff was, where the creeks were coming in, the farmland was fertile. He knew where he wanted to go when it was time to go. So when we look at this chart, I want you to think along those lines. We have a very clear understanding of the line that they're following into the higher high. In fact, you can use all of your available resources now, right? And we can start to project where the next point might be. Once I have my angle, I can come down. There's my other lower trend line. Once I know the distance between the two trend lines, I draw a right angle, or as best as I can get to it. Now I draw my next line up here. It looks to me like they're headed Tracy, would you agree with me? Using that technique I just used? It looks to me like they're headed up here. That puts us at 2386 to 87. Now, the histogram down below is pretty revealing. I can't hit escape for some reason. And I'm trying to draw this higher and it won't let me. What is happening? The histogram down below flattens out. The mountain range, the Dahmer party gets trapped in the mountains and people start dying. So after 11:30 this morning, we're going to start to see consolidation and hesitancy. This is where the banks will start to trip the stops from 11:30 out until this evening. Okay, so this is where we're going to start to see large wicks from above. As we start to get into this time in the future over here, that's where things are going to start to level out, and you'll start to see large wicks above us pushing down as banks stop, consolidate, and take profit on the Emini S&P. If you ever use trend lines like this, remember we can also use our 50% rule that we just talked about in our earlier lesson. And Derek, I can take those lines and I can cut those gaps in half as well. So the very first place we expect resistance, Tracy, along the way is along that time price resistance line right there. And you see how it closed just underneath that level right there? Right at the open, by the way. Next level up here by 11:30. So this is a wonderful way of using the time cycles that the computer has discovered for us that are based off of previous time cycles in the past that the banks have been using to look forward into the future and see what to expect. We already have the times for tomorrow, right? We already have the times for the London session tomorrow morning, the US session tomorrow morning. So we can proactively stake our claim and decide what are we going to do when we get there. Where are we going to punch our flag into the ground? And so I would love for you to focus on these two signals that I'm describing to you right now. Number one, when you have a candle that closes with a counter trend signal, a red dot, take a line, extend the dot off to the right, and look for a touch of that level. When you have a touch of that level, it is indicative of a banking scenario where they're standing aside. They have taken as much profit as they're going to take. The consolidation is over. All of the sellers that were committed to their campaign have been sent home, and we're about to launch up. So I call this historically a Willy Wonka 2. There are two golden ticket entries in this Trump trend. Number one is the touch or breakout of a counter trend consolidation selling pressure signal in an uptrend. That right there is Colonel Sanders finger licking good delicious when you see those. But we need the time cycle to tell us when that's happening. The second scenario is a good old American baby kissing signal with trend. If you have to favor one over the other, this is the one that I would favor because it is a buying pressure time in the direction of the trend. It is a buying pressure time in the direction of the trend. And when you get those, it's that, what was the commercial where it's good, good. I don't remember. I do remember the jingle, and I hate the person instantly who created it because I obviously remember it. Campbell's Soup. Thank you. Good. Good. had a scratch in my back. Hold on. I'm finding as I lose a lot of weight, the skin is retracing and shrinking. And where it's shrinking, it gets really itchy. Okay. When you see those types of entries, a touch of the red line associated with a selling pressure sequence, we'll go ahead and we'll make it red just to be consistent with what I'm telling you. These are areas to look for impulse moves in the direction of an accelerated trend. Okay? So when you apply these NinjaTrader indicators to your chart, watch for those particular patterns. You know when they're coming up. So when we get to 11:30, if there's a candle just like this one, and up at 11:30, let's say that dot is somewhere over here, and we touch that line at 11:30, or we go above it just a little bit, it's another one of these signals getting ready to happen. Low risk, high reward, smaller stop area. Okay? So we can use the histograms to tell us when in the future to look for a move. We can identify two patterns that are particularly interesting to us. We can stake our claim, use low risk in those times to identify where our stops can be as tight as they can possibly be, and we know how long the signal has to run. We know how much time to expect. So from 11:30 on into the close, we've sort of seen the glory days by 11:30 here in those first 2 hours. Things are going to be awesome in those first 2 hours, and then I'm really not interested. It's sort of messy and choppy unless we go up and touch the dot height of the 11:30 candle when we get there. Great class. Pay attention to these signals, and remember to use the time cycle markers like this. Also spend some time learning the Canaveral pattern. I'll try to add it to my guide to the histograms book by tomorrow, so that when you come to the class, we'll have pattern 6 and 7. We'll add 2 more patterns to our dialogue with regards to time patterns. Great class. If you have any questions, send me an email, michael@backtothefuturetrading.com.